Heather, you look chipper and like ready for the day. Ready to roll. Awesome. Okay, guys. I have a good little lesson for y'all today. And it was oh, Curtis Rose is on. That makes me happy. It is from my time in Austin listening to Tim Grover. And actually, let's not forget to, if you can, type something in the chat that you are grateful for. And I'm just grateful for a new month, to be honest. I had a rough August, and so I'm like ready for a new month, really, just a fresh restart, which is much needed. But let's hear some things that you guys are grateful for too. And while you're typing that in the chat, I'll tell you a little bit about Tim Grover. Curtis said same. Yes, Milton. Hi, Milton. So glad to be back. Josh, yep, celebrating your 1 year. Love it. Your work anniversary, which is what I like to call it. So I have read Tim Grover. I'd heard of Tim Grover previously. Jess, you said pumpkin spice lattes in fall. Yes, 100% ready. I already am like, I asked Adam yesterday, what day am I allowed to start decorating for Halloween that he feels like is an appropriate time frame? And he tried to say October 1st. I was like, no, I think it's going out in September. I'm pretty sure 31 days, as much stuff as I put out, 31 days is not enough time to be able to put it all out and enjoy it. Yes, Jen, all fall things are coming. I love fall too. It's 100% my favorite time of the year. So I had read a book called Relentless by Tim Grover previously, which some of you may have read, and he has a new book out called Winning. And back in probably the beginning of the summer, maybe late spring, on one of the top masterminds with Gary Keller, he told us that this was his favorite book he'd read in like a really long time. So I kind of had a premonition that he might be bringing Tim Grover to us. But wasn't 100% sure if we would hear him or not, but luckily we did get to. Oh, you know what? My little slideshow is showing on the side. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Okay, now you can see it better. So this is his book, Winning. And when you think about mindset, he's probably one of the greatest coaches of all time. So for those of you that don't know Tim Grover, he it was coach to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, I don't know. I mean, lots of other people, but those were like his big three. So I wanted to share with you guys. Yes, Steph, he was so amazing. You'll have to chime in if I forgot anything. I wanted to share with you guys a couple of the big things when it comes to mindset that I learned from him. So the first thing that he had us do was think about, which this was a really good exercise. At first, I was kind of like, why is he doing this? But he said, think about a time when you had an unbearable moment. Like you remember a day where everything went wrong, or a time when you told yourself, I cannot do this anymore, like a totally unbearable moment. And probably there might be a time that pops into everyone's head. And he said that he has all of his players do that exercise because he doesn't want them to remember what they felt or the emotion. He wants them to remember what they did. He wants them to remember the superpower that they kind of had within, which was what they did that pushed them through that unbearable moment. And he said he tells his players all the time, remind yourself of that on a regular basis, because that's what people with a winning mindset do. Because he said a lot of times when we all can think of an unbearable moment, and you may even know people who had an unbearable moment, and like, actually I was talking to somebody yesterday. Who was I talking to yesterday? And they said, yeah, when I lost a loved one, I didn't leave the house for like over 90 days. And I was like, oh man, like I felt really bad for them when I was talking to them about this. And I was thinking like, oh my first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that didn't happen to me. Or that wasn't like but everyone has different things that happen in their life. But if you can think of an unbearable moment, just remember what you did, not the emotion that you felt, because he said winning, there's really nothing normal about it. And the same with success. There's nothing normal about it. It's different. It takes a lot of sacrifice. And it takes obsession, which is what I want to talk to you guys about today. One of the things is having this mindset. So one of the big takeaways I had from him was people today either are interested in something or they're obsessed with something. And interested, according to Tim Grover, is a hobby. And he said, when you are trying to win, you have to be obsessed. So you can't just be interested in selling another house or interested in being a great parent or, whatever it is that you want to do. If it's something that you want to win at, you have to be obsessed with it. And he said, look at some of the great ones. So if you look at Michael Jordan, he was obsessed with basketball. Kobe, obsessed with basketball. Jeff Bezos is obsessed with, I don't know, taking over the world with shipping packages or whatever he's obsessed with, but he's obsessed. Tom Brady, obsessed. Elon Musk, weird, yet obsessed, in my opinion. So you look at these people and they're obsessed. They're not interested. And then you might think of other people who are interested in something and they don't get to that level. And so he said, a lot of times, some of us even started obsessed. And he said, and then one of two things happened. You either get some success and then you became interested because it got good and you had success and you were like, man, this is rolling, this is good. And so you moved from obsessed to interested. Or something got hard, maybe even too hard, and you move from obsessed to interested again. So you can kind of go back and forth, but the key is to really understand that when you want to win, it has to become an obsession. And I almost kind of didn't originally love that word because I think obsession can be like an unhealthy thing, but that's not what he's talking about. Because he does talk about balance, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that. But he said the biggest problem today from keeping people from winning is in today's world, we have so many distractions that take us from obsessed back to interested. And he said, thanks to TikTok now, which I've heard this, I think I've even shared this with you guys before, but humans have a 7-second attention span today, which is crazy, to be honest. I mean, it's so crazy that that's our attention span. And so we are distracted by so many things. And actually, if any of you listen to Linda and I's podcast, we dropped an episode. Actually, we were late because Linda was on a cruise and I was in New York, and we thought we were an episode ahead, but we weren't. So this is a whole nother story. But we dropped an episode, I think instead of dropping yesterday morning, it either dropped last night or this morning, or it's dropping today. Hold on, let me see if she has it. Yeah, it should be dropping today instead of yesterday. But we talked about, we shared the 20 things that we can't live without, which, I mean, obviously we can live without them. We can live without them. But we shared we don't want to live without them. And one of Linda's that she shared, Heather, you're going to die over this, was she just found a new workbook on Amazon for staying organized when you have ADD. And Linda was like, now that I found that workbook, I cannot live without the workbook. She's like, I look at it every day. I use my sheets every single day. But the reason is because we have so many distractions and they take us, our attention span is all over the place. So when you want to have a winning mindset, Tasha said she needed that. Yes, you have to be obsessed, not interested. So a couple more points about a winning mindset. Winners and successful people, this is a huge one, you guys. They don't let anybody else dictate their thoughts and emotions. And raise your hand if you don't, not really, but in your mind, if you've ever let someone else dictate your thoughts or emotions. Yes. Or something that happened. Curtis raised 2 hands while he's driving. Please be safe. Yes, me too. Or something that happened yesterday. I am infamous. Unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to admit to this, but hopefully, I know Heather does this, so hopefully some more of you guys do. But if I get something on my mind from the day before, no way am I sleeping that night. I'll go to sleep, but I'm up at 2 and I'm thinking about it, and I'm up the entire rest of the time because I'm mad, or I'm like, why did they act that way, or whatever happened. So he said, winners and successful people, they don't let anybody else dictate their thoughts and emotions or something that happened yesterday, because you carry someone else's weight when you do that. winners elevate themselves when they come into a space, that should say come, not some, into a space of you control you, like not someone else, your emotions, you control you. And you don't constantly need motivated by somebody else, because winners don't need motivation. They're already motivated. They self-motivate themselves. And I actually love that, because I think every now and again, we might need like a little bump or a little push of like, okay, we need a little extra, but winners, they can motivate themselves. Like they're already like, I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm going. But more importantly, they have the mindset of they control them. And so he talked about Michael Jordan when he talked about this a lot, because he said Michael Jordan didn't let anybody else's, criticism or feedback or whatever take any space in his head. Like he was in control of him. And he said that was one of the things that made Jordan the best. He said, when you are learning so much stuff, just take what you can use and throw the rest away, because you won't remember, and you actually don't need to incorporate everything that you learn or hear. You just need to pick up the things that mean something to you in that moment, and then figure out how you can incorporate them. He talked a lot about winners used to wear a halo. Basically, he was saying it used to be easier to be a winner. And if you think about it, I mean, I'm sure it's always been hard to be a winner, but if you think about it, pre-social media days, all of the just politics and everything that we have in the world today keeps us in an even harder space. So he said everything used to be easier. Everybody was in abundance. He said, and then we woke up and like in a second, winning was wearing fangs, and those that were set in comfortability got chewed up. And so he said, you have to be willing to have a mindset of change, and knowing that it's not going to be easy, because he said winning is all about self-talk. And many of us have heard this, because if you've ever like taken bold, you don't say try, but he said he always has his players say, this is what I'm going to do, not what I'm going to try to do, because anytime you try to do something, you give yourself like that mental out. And so he said, it can't be of the mindset of I'm going to try to do anything. It has to be, if you say you're going to do it, then you're going to do it, and you're not giving yourself the out. Because he said it's a jungle out there. And if you think about a jungle, and actually my neighbor Helen just got back from a 10-day honeymoon in Africa. And I haven't got to talk to her yet, but I can't wait to talk to her, because I would like to go to Africa. Because people say it's like beautiful. I know Heather's laughing because it's like a super long flight. So I don't really know if I could do it, but I would say I was going to do it. I wouldn't try if I committed. However, he said, if you think about a jungle, like those animals are out there to survive. A jungle comes to win every single day. Like that's what happens in a jungle. You're in total Steph's going next year. Wow. You're in survival mode, and you're out there, and it's about survival. So he said winners do three things. They understand that change is a necessity, and they do change. Then they learn how to apply the change, and then they execute the plan. And so he said the best way to do that is to think about, and I'm terrible at this, so I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you guys. What can you delete instead of add? So like what needs to be removed so that you can win in the things that you want to win in, and you can have a better winning mindset? Because for most of us, our mind is out of balance. And maybe just type in the chat if you can, yes, if you ever feel like your mind is out of balance, because you guys will make me feel better about myself. He said, this was one of my largest takeaways that all day, Josh said, okay, thank you. This was one of my biggest takeaways that he said was, you don't find balance, you create it. And winners actually require more balance. And so he said, think about like, what can you leave today? Maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a bad thought, maybe it's a bad habit, maybe it's not recommending this, but maybe it's an individual. I mean, I don't know, but what do you need to leave out of that you can continue to focus on a winning mindset? And it might be people, honestly, sometimes if you're just not around the right people, then that can massively affect your mindset and you having a winning mindset. So winners require more balance. You don't find it, you create it. Yep, totally agree, Curtis. And he said the same with success and happiness. You actually create them. You don't just find it. So he said a great example of this, and Steph, you'll remember he said this, Michael Jordan played basketball for 9 years straight on Christmas Day. He was on the road on Christmas Day without his kids, without his family. for 9 years in a row, when most individuals would never commit to play on Christmas Day because they were afraid that they would be, just totally out of whack or, Josh. Great. But this was for me too. When I heard him, I was like, okay, I totally needed this therapy session. But Michael Jordan, he had to find the balance because he was obsessed and he committed. And so what that looked like was him being away from his family on Christmas Day for 9 straight years. Yet today, look at what he has, the ultimate freedom, and his family never has to worry about anything. They could have Christmas every day of the year if they wanted to, in reality. So he had to figure out a way to create and find the balance. And he said that it was because he recognized that his talent was a gift. And so Tim Grover says what winners do is they recognize that talent is a gift, not a promise, because you can't just have talent. You have to have talent plus competitiveness plus resilience in order to be a winner. And Susan, you walked right into, okay, it's not the next slide, but it's the next slide. It's like my second biggest aha that's coming up that talks about focus. So you're going to walk right into that. So he said, when you're thinking about greatness and a winning mindset, the sacrifice to win is so much bigger than anything else. And I don't know if any of you have ever had people tell you this, that it must be nice, like it must be nice to do whatever. It must be nice to have whatever. It must be nice to not have to do whatever. But they have no clue the sacrifice that either you've made or you've had or you've done. And I think I might have shared this on here before, but I used to really let it bother me when people would say to me, well, it must be nice that you don't have to show houses anymore every day, or and I would be like, you have no idea. I worked in open house at a new construction house for a psychopath for literally every single 7 days a week. Heather knows this is true, for like 2 straight years. I think even one time I had 104-degree fever and was puking, and I was at an open house over in Beaumont, no lie. So like, you have no idea the sacrifices that people make when they say it must be nice. People don't understand that. So you just can't let it get to you. He said, there's nothing normal about winning. Everything has a price. And obsession means that you aren't thinking about those other things. You are in the zone and you are dialed in all the time. You give it your all the time. And it's hard if we're being really honest. Curtis, it must be nice to have an open house. Love it. You have to really be dialed in, and it's not easy, right? Like some days you're just not there. And like right now I'm in a season of my life where after last month, like if I'm not feeling it tomorrow, I'm not feeling it tomorrow. Like I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space, because you have to find the balance. If you have a team, and this is really important, and I know some of you do have teams or you're on teams, you have to have a team where everyone is obsessed with winning, because if the leader is obsessed with winning and the rest of the team is not obsessed with winning, it will never work. Everybody has to be obsessed with winning, and everybody has to kind of want to win in a different way, because that's what makes a team really succeed. If you think about, the best teams of all times, or if you think about the Lakers, or like everybody wants to win. I love right now, I don't know if you guys saw, Adam has me obsessed with Deion Sanders currently. And after we watched his show, and the things he's doing for his, the programs that he's a part of is insane. And I think Colorado had a 17 streak loss, and they just won their first game. And I think what he's done as a leader is come in and created an atmosphere where they all want to win. They haven't won for a very long time, but they're on a team and they all want to win. He said that you have to really know the difference between friends versus allies, because friends tell you what you want to hear, but an ally will tell you what you need to hear. And that was a huge one too, because I think you obviously need friends in your life, but you also need allies that will tell you what you need to hear sometimes. This is, Susan, this was one of my biggest takeaways. Interested people manage time, obsessed people manage focus. And I tend to get like time focused because I just am so to my calendar. But really that's what an interested person does. Yes, it's very hard. I totally agree. Obsessed people manage their focus. They aren't as crazy about their time because they have to be focused, right? The time doesn't necessarily matter. So I want to end with a story that he shared with us. Andrew, we can send you these if you guys want them. This is Tim Grover back in the day. Look at him with that stash. It kills me. And Michael Jordan. And so this was one of my favorite stories. I love this story. At the end, Gary Keller asked him the best question. He said, how in the world did you get Michael Jordan as a client? Like, I'm just totally curious. How did you even get him as a client to begin with or in the first place? And Tim Grover said, I want to tell you a story because there's a lesson in here. He said, I hand wrote letters, 14 letters to all of the players on the team, but I did not send one to Michael Jordan because he thought he was like an untouchable, right? So he didn't send a letter to Michael Jordan, but he sent 14 handwritten letters to the rest of the people to some of the other players on the team. And what happened was all the players in the team started talking about it in the locker room. So they were like, did you get one of those letters? Who is this Tim Grover coach guy? Like, what, did you get a letter? Did you get a letter? And not one of the 14 people that Tim Grover sent a letter to responded. But a month or so later, I don't remember the time frame, I might be making that up, but a little bit later, somebody on Michael Jordan's like staff or team or whatever reached out to Grover and said, Michael Jordan wants to have a conversation. We want to have a conversation with you about coaching Jordan. And he said, how did you hear about me? And he said, well, Jordan heard about you in the locker room because all the other players were got a letter from you, and he didn't get one or whatever. And Tim said the lesson in this, so that was, anyway, he met with Jordan's guys and then he met with Jordan and then he ended up becoming the coach. And he said, the lesson in this is this: the individuals that are the best of the best are always looking to get better, always. And so even though none of the other 14 people reached out to Tim Grover, Jordan, having the mindset of a winner and the best of the best, and hearing that there was another coach out there that was willing to, to work with these guys and commit to these guys, reached out to him because he was always looking to get better no matter what. He said the exact same thing for Kobe. He was always looking to get better no matter what. And I don't think that you have to be an athlete for this to pertain to you. I think when you are, trying to do anything, when you want to be the best of the best, you're always looking to get better. And I think that's why I love so many of us, like, are obsessed with wanting to just learn as much as we can or go to these things because we want to get better. And then lastly, I love this part. He said, Tim Grover said, look, Michael Jordan, he was going to be the best of the best without me. Like, he didn't need me. He had talent, he had competitiveness, he had resilience, he had, had athleticism. Like, he was going to be the best no matter what. But my job was to keep him injury free, not only in his body, but also in his mind. And so while he did work with him a lot on his strength and, all his body health and keeping him injury free, more than anything, he kept him injury free in his mind because he told him what he needed to hear, not what he wanted to hear. And I think for me, that was just a really, really good reminder, because I think a lot of people hear somebody has a coach and they're like, oh, they're just, an athlete. They're just keeping him like working out in the weight room. But really, that's not even what he did in any way, shape, or form. So Andrew, make sure you get this one written down for sure. The individuals that are the best of the best are always looking to get better. This to me is like one of the best one. Oh yes, posted on the Facebook page. Thank you, Milton. Awesome. Yes. If you haven't watched Coach Prime, Milton shared it on our Facebook group and it is like the best. Everyone needs to go watch Coach Prime. I'm obsessed with him right now. I just think he's so great. So would love to hear any takeaways if you have just a second. I know we have a minute in the chat or something, or feel free to unmute if it's easier. But if you anything that stuck out to you guys today or that you took away. Milton, everything has a price. Yep, for sure. Oh, I love, Josh, what you said. Yeah, your college coach saying getting better each day. If you don't get better, you're getting worse. Yep, I love that. Gary has said that before too. Susan, removing versus adding, for sure. That's a huge one that a lot of people who have trouble saying no get into. Curtis, love it. Right back at you. I need you to get it. I need you to. Yes.
Oh, this is Josh. You mentioned this, you and Linda, a couple podcasts ago, and I texted you and I said, hey, this is one of your best podcasts. I listened to it twice. It was really good. Yeah. And it made me think like a new agent starting out, like what's the difference between those who succeed and don't? And I know it's not as simple as this, But that whole interested versus obsessed, I think of the agents that have come on like the last 6 months that I've worked with, the ones who have taken off versus the ones who are struggling. And it's that interested, like the folks who are always showing up to stuff. They're always asking questions. Like they always want to do open, like it's kind of interested versus obsessed. Like that's when you and Linda talked about that, I was like, bam, like that, I don't know, that just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
Josh, I totally agree. And I think right now too, if you are with the way that the industry is shifting and the things that are happening inside the industry, if you aren't obsessed, I think we're going to see a really big drop off, because you kind of have to be, you know what I mean, to push through. And that's with anything that gets hard for a minute. But I definitely think in our industry, for those of you that are in real estate, 100% yes. Yeah.
Dana, what's really interesting is my coach told me yesterday, you've been on a cruise ship and when you really supposed to be on a battleship.
Oh, I love that.
And so talk about what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. So
Love
I
that.
thought that was just, oh my gosh, I've every, oh my goodness. So,
I'm writing that down, Milton. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's true. We definitely need to be thinking that way. Yep, totally. Yeah, Steph, totally agree. All right, you all. Well, have a great rest of your week. Thanks for being on, and I will see you soon. Bye. Thank you. Bye.